Yo, what's good, YouTube? In today's video, we're going into my top 5 meta loadouts you guys need to be using. If y'all enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like for the algorithm, subscribe, notifications turned on, and let's get into it. All right, so for our first gun here today, we're gonna be hopping into the HRM9. This is a really solid SMG that I think you guys should be using. It got buffed in season 6. It honestly does go up there and compete with like your static, your super, your FJX. A lot of those guns is a really solid one to use, so let's give you guys a good build for it. First thing in the muzzle category, we're gonna go throw on the Quartermaster Suppressor. This is just still the best thing you guys should be running. I don't really recommend to run anything else besides the Quartermaster on really any of your ARs, SMGs, LMGs, doesn't even matter. Maybe like sniper rifles, you know, that'd be like, you know, a different thing right there, but the Quartermaster is still the way to go for this thing. After, we're gonna go to the barrel section. We're gonna throw on the Thorn 90 barrel. You guys can actually substitute this out for something else. I'll show you guys that here in a second. But the Thorn 90, if you are going to be running a barrel on the HRM, is what you should be running. Makes you just overall faster. And I do like having those added speed benefits. Makes you, like I said, be able to compete a little bit better with, you know, the other meta SMGs, because speed does really mean a lot in this game, especially when you're trying to, you know, bob and weave around people. You're playing trios and quads. You come up against, you know, a couple enemies at a time or multiple. It can really help you out to be able to get out of a situation by being faster. So you have that on there. Going out to underbarrel section, we're actually gonna go throw on the DR6 hand stop. So this is really solid right here. You guys could also go for the XRK Edge, and if you really want to, you can throw on the Jack Slash to kind of counteract some of the overall vertical recoil that the HRM has. It's not like a literal laser beam like it, you know, kind of used to be back in the day. So if you want it to be more of a laser, throw on the Jack Slash. But otherwise, if you want more movement, just decide between the XRK Edge and the DR6. Either which way, you're going to be good to go. Just keep in mind, it will have a little bit of that up and to the right style recoil when you fire it after a little bit. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose. Just go for one of those three. After that, go down to magazine section. We're to throw on, of course, the 50 round mag here. This is just, you know, what you should be running. There's no reason to run the base 30, the 20. That's just ridiculous. So we're also just going to go for the 50. Lastly, but definitely not least, we're going to go to the stock section. We're going to go throw on the Hatchet Light stock. I've had plenty of experience running the no stock on this, running the Hatchet Light stock on this, and of course the folding, because we ran that for a long time when this was, you know, basically the most meta SMG. You guys can run pretty much any and all of these stocks you want to. Just, I mean, this one will have ultimately the most kick, but it will have the most sort of mobility, so you will keep up a lot more so with, you know, the movement of the static, the super stuff like that. But this is a really good kind of happy medium right here, where you do get more benefits, but you're not going to pretty much screw your recoil nearly as much. So the Hatchet Light is going to be my preference on this thing when I'm trying to use the HRM. It's a bit of a lower recoil, but still good movement SMG. This is really solid, so you guys can definitely try this build out here. And by the way, if you don't want to run the Thorn barrel, go down here to the ammunition and throw on the 9mm high grain rounds and substitute it out like that, and you can have a great setup like this too. Next up, let's hop in here and give you guys a build for the D tier 30, and this is going to be a standard D tier build, but there's going to be one thing, because this gun is broken right now in Warzone. It's giving me a lot of the OG AS Val vibes from Warzone 1. You can basically just shoot through everything. This has the same sort of thing going on with it right now. So let's give you guys the kind of broken build so you can use it before it gets patched. Muzzle category, I'm going to throw on, of course, the Quartermaster Suppressor. You guys should still be running this. Of course, it's going to have a little bit of recoil, since we're going to be substituting out an attachment to make it be able to basically shoot through walls. So the Quartermaster is what you guys should be running right there. Barrel section, you want to throw on that Extend 10 long barrel, standard barrel that we've been running. No reason to switch this thing up. It's still the most effective long range barrel in there for this gun. So I'd recommend for you guys to keep on with that. At that optic section, we're still going to use an optic, and that's going to be the Jack Glassless. Particularly if you're trying to actually use and abuse this gun to be able to really make it shoot through walls like the AS Val. I know that was just an absolute headache back in the day when it was just going on. It was rampant in Warzone. But the Jack Glassless is going to be the best way for you guys to utilize this gun. After that magazine section, of course, the 40 round mag. So we're just going to go throw that on there. No reason to run the 30. To run the base 20, doesn't even matter. Just go throw on the 40, and the attachment that's going to break this gun is going to be in the ammunition category, and it's not going to be the high grain rounds or the low grain or anything else like that. It's actually going to be the mono rounds, and these actually give you that increased vehicle damage, bullet penetration, and bullet velocity. It says it messes with your damage range, but I mean, it actually does really help you out. Just literally break the game. You can start shooting through walls. I mean, I'm talking about straight brick walls, floors. It doesn't matter what it is. If you can hit somebody and you pair this with Combat Scout, you can get that ping on them. You can just basically fire at the wall and take somebody out totally through it. So I'm sure if any guys play ranked play or just play a rebirth, you might have actually seen some of this and been like, how'd I get killed? Well, someone's running the mono rounds there on their D tier. So you guys can run this and break the game like that, or you can take this off and go for the standard setup and go for the Rifleman 200, which is going to be basically your non-broken but still #1 meta AR setup. Now let's hop in here, give you guys a great build here for the STG. I really do personally still enjoy using this gun. I just don't use it as much as a primary AR because I generally tend to go for the D tier or something else. But if you guys really still enjoy the STG and don't want to use the D tier, don't want to use the Bal 27, which I just made a video on, this will be a great option. So first thing, muzzle, we're gonna go throw in, of course, the Quartermaster, staying tried and true to that. No reason to switch that thing up. Barrel section, we have a couple options in here. I know some people don't like the recoil the STG has. So basically there's about three barrels that are going to be good. So the Brunacrux Heavy is your first barrel, the Heinrichter C70, and then the Fengor 792 barrel, whatever how you want to pronounce that, the 792 barrel. We have these three options which are going to be the best, and so we can take a look at the detailed statistics. We get nice effective damage range, minimum, our bullet velocity goes up, and it puts us out to about 35 meters, which is pretty solid. Scrolling over here to the C70, this puts us out to 36 meters, a little bit better bullet velocity, and of course then this one over here, the 792, gets us out to 32 meters. So you can see that it pretty much all does the same thing, except this one's going to slow you down the most. This one's going to have the most amount of range to it, but it's not going to have any recoil control properties. And this is kind of like your medium, where it's not going to give you the most range. It's going to be pretty similar, but it's going to give you recoil control. So that being said, if you need more recoil control on the STG, go for the Brunacrux Heavy. You're not going to be missing out on too much, but if you can control the recoil, go for the Heinrichter C70. That's truly going to be the most effective barrel to run on this gun. After we go down to the magazine section, throw on, of course, the 50 round mag. It's not like you're trying to make this into a hybrid. You're trying to use this still as your primary long range, so the 50 round is the way to go. After that, in the optics section, I'd say just to run the JAK glassless on this thing. Realistically speaking, I think this has a little bit too much visual kick for me to want to run that Corio Eagle Eye 2.5x. Truthfully, I think the JAK glassless is just the move on this thing. Of course, with the D tier, you could throw on, the Corio Eagle Eye. That would be, fantastic and definitely can do the job. But on this gun in particular, I just think JAK glassless works out great. And the last thing in the stock section, we go through on the DR79 combo stock, which is still the best stock to run on this thing. Especially if you pair this with that Crux Heavy barrel, you're going to have almost virtually no recoil on the gun. So just kind of keep that in mind. But this is my full build right here, and you guys should be using this. Next up, for our fourth gun, I want to give you guys a build here for the WSP9. There is a multitude of ways actually to run this thing, and you can have it be very effective in a variety of ways, but let's get you probably one of the more balanced builds here on this gun. So first thing in muzzle category, of course, Quartermaster suppressor. We're gonna throw this on here. Ain't gotta explain that one. We're gonna go up into the barrel section here, and we're gonna go all the way down to the very end and throw in the Hiss short light barrel. There is a bunch of other barrels in here that do a variety of things, but unfortunately you lose, like, of course, your damage range and stuff like that. We don't really need that, and we're not trying to slow ourselves down because by base, this isn't like a super ridiculously fast SMG, so we're trying to speed it up and still make it very controllable. So we have the Hiss short light barrel on here. After that, I'm gonna go down to the underbarrel section, and you can run a variety of things on this thing. It comes down to a little bit more personal preference, but the JAK Slash is gonna be great here. You can run the XRK or Edge or the DR6 hand stop. It's kind of like the HRM where you have some choices in that matter. So you can run the DR6, like I said, XRK or JAK Slash. For me, I'm gonna go for the DR6, but the XRK Edge still does work out pretty nicely. The only upside I'd say is running the XRK over the DR6 is that you get basically double the ADS movement speed. So if you want more ADS movement speed, run the XRK Edge as opposed to the DR6. After that, go down to the magazine section, and down here, it's kind of a little bit up in the air. So of course, we're not gonna go for the 32, but you have the option between the 40 and the 50 round mag, and it's not gonna be like you're gonna be missing out a ton if you run the 40 as opposed to the 50. It's not one of those guns where you have to run the largest mag. It doesn't have the craziest fire rate, and also sometimes, because I feel like running that 50, I feel a little bit too slow. There's other times where I feel perfectly fine. It's like, I've ran the 40 on this thing so many times, and this has worked out great. But you can run the 40 or the 50 with this exact build, and it's not going to be anything you have to be concerned with. It just comes down to you'll be a little bit slower with the 50, but you'll have 10 extra rounds in the mag, which is good for trios and quads. So I'll just throw the 50 on here for this particular build. After that, we're gonna keep the iron sights. We're gonna go for the stock. And that's gonna be the WSP factory stock. This right here is just really solid because it helps you be more mobile. It's not gonna be the no stock attachment, which is gonna really make it a little bit hard to use the iron sights. It's gonna have a lot of jump to it, and I'm not a fan of that. So I like the WSP factory. It keeps me feeling very mobile without, having too much of a jump. because when you start using the Uzi and the iron sights, that can be the deterrent for some people. Is like they feel like they need to run an optic. So I will say that we can run this on here and this will be a great setup, or you can take that off and go for an optic of choice, most namely probably the Jack glasses, or the slate reflector is really solid on this thing. And my other recommendation, my preferential optic is going to be the Night Arm model 2023. So this right here is going to be probably the best sort of all-around version to run this thing. As if you're going to run an optic, run it like this. And if you don't want that, just go to the stock section, swap it out and go for the WSP factory stock. And honestly, you can even take off his short light barrel and go throw on an optic as well. I mean, there's a few different ways you guys could realistically run this and be perfectly okay. And last but definitely not least, a gun that I think is still very slept on apart from the Bal 27 that's actually meta is the Holger 556. So this right here doesn't get as much love, but it has one of the most ridiculous damage ranges for a fully automatic AR. So I'll show you guys that. So first thing, of course, is the Quartermaster suppressor, throwing that thing on there. After that, we're gonna go up into the barrel section. We're gonna go throw on the Cryos 6-match barrel. This is a standard barrel we run on this thing, but just kind of going back to what I said there, it's like the effective damage range of 61 meters is kind of a bit absurd. We talk about the one of the other metas has like a 40 or a 50 meter range, and the STG is in the 30s. So this right here has got almost double the range, but unfortunately the bullet velocity is not nearly as good as the STG or like the D tier. So that's kind of one of the parts where you find yourself a bit at a disadvantage. So we have to alter this build up to make it more effective at being a true good long range option. I'll show you guys a couple ways to run this thing. So now we're gonna go down here to the magazine. We're gonna go throw on, of course, the 40 round mag. So I'd suggest for you guys to go ahead and do that. And then we're gonna go on back here to the stock, and we're gonna go throw on the RB Adel Assault stock, which is gonna make this thing truly a lot easier to control. You can see a nice little increase of 9, 14, and 14%. It does a lot more than running, let's say, like a Bruin Heavy support grip. That's going to give you an increase in vertical recoil, which we already know if you've ever used, or if you should know if you use the Holger, it does have that vertical recoil. So we're trying to combat that. And adding the Bruin Heavy just really is not going to help you out too much, especially when this thing already helps you out that horizontal and only has the penalty of 4% on your ADS, which is that's hardly a penalty at all, because considering that's the only thing it does. So now to make this thing a little bit more effective at range, we're gonna go down here to ammunition. We're gonna go throw on the 5.56 NATO high grains, and this will bring you out to about 914 meters, which is way, way, way better than having 795. That's definitely on the lower side, and we don't want that. So the high grains will help you out, but the downside is you will be using the iron sights here. So if you don't like the iron sights, you don't want to go ahead and like run this as your full build, take the high grains off, go ahead and run an optic, throw on the Jack glassless. This is going to be pretty solid. And then for any of you guys that are a little bit more higher skill or feel good with recoil control, take off the RB Adel Assault stock and throw on the high grains with the Jack glassless, and this will be your build. With that being said, that's been my top 5. If you guys enjoyed this, give it a like, subscribe, notifications turned on, check out this other video on screen, and I'll see you all next time.